Art students, Brian Proctor, the art teacher, back in the class with another lesson. And this is going to be a long lesson because in this series of videos, I'm going to cover every aspect of drawing from the very beginning to the end of my knowledge anyway. Because all too many times you see videos where people show you how to draw one thing or two things, but they don't really cover the true essence of drawing. Now, I always say that everyone can draw. Everyone can draw. If you can write, then you can draw, because drawing is just taking a shape and putting a shape on top of another shape and twisting another shape and doing another shape, and then you have a drawing. Well, writing is the same thing. You're taking a shape and you're putting it in front of another shape, next to another shape, and it's the same thing, but people just don't see it. So in this series, I'm going to cover from the very beginning to the very end of my knowledge, again, as I say. So, all right, grab some paper, lots of paper, because this is going to be a very long series of lessons. I'm not going to have a long video, but just break it down to a lot of episodes. So let's get to class and let's get going. All right, welcome back to class. So this series is for all of you that say, I can't draw, or I wish I could draw, or I wish I could draw better, or whoever is doubting themselves to draw. If you are writing, if you are making letters, then you can draw, because drawing is basically, as I said in the beginning, is putting some shapes together to make something that resembles an image. Okay, this is not a person, but when you see it, you say, okay, yeah, he just drew a man. And this is not a man, it's nowhere near a man. But because I'm drawing these shapes, you would see this as a man. Now I can keep adding more shapes to it to make it more realistic, but all it is just shapes. And the same thing with these letters, they are just shapes. There are three shapes that make up basically everything: the triangle, the circle, and the square. Now these shapes will take on different forms, like the rectangle. When you take that square and you stretch it out, I think the triangle will always be a triangle, and the circle will be more of a sphere. That's all, just more of a round sphere, or I'm sorry, the cylinder. Sorry about that, cylinder. And this could take on the cone. I don't know where my brain is. The cone, which is when you round that off, looks like a Hershey's Kiss. When you round that off, and that could be the same for the circle, taking on the shape of a cone. So these are basically the three shapes that you're going to take. Square is going to become a box. So many people have a hard time doing this three-dimensional box. And the same thing for the rectangle is going to become that. Now when we take these shapes, all we do is we chop them off, we chip them away, we round them off, you know, to take that shape and make something else out of it. That's basically all we're doing with these shapes. We're adding or subtracting to these shapes to become something. So like if you're saying you can't draw a house or a box or whatever, but you can draw the letter E. If you take that E and you flip it upside down and you do that, you have yourself a square. Erase that. If you draw the letter H, you do that. Just draw the bottom of this. You still have your square. You take the letter L, you do that. You do it at the top. If you have trouble, turn it over. Turn your paper over. Draw the letter I on the end of that. You have a square. It's very simple to draw. If you're drawing the letter zero, drawing the letter O, or drawing a zero, you have a cylinder, oval, which is something I forgot to mention. The O can be turned into the oval. So at this point, you should be saying, hey, you know something? He's right. I can draw. You might not be a master at it yet because you just discovered your talents. Now, you know, you were born with these talents. God gave you these talents for a reason. This is why so many artists have to draw. We just feel that urge to draw because it's that spark. We were born with that spark inside of us, and it's turned to a flame. So we have to draw something. No matter what it is, we draw. That's why you have artists that have like tons and tons of pictures that they drew just sitting around the room, because we have the ability to draw, or we teach ourselves the ability to draw, but we don't teach ourselves what we can do with that ability as far as making a living or making money, because they say artists make bad business people, you know, and that's because nobody's there to teach us. This is why when you tell people, oh, you're an artist, oh, you'll die broke, or you try to sell your paintings on the street, because we don't have that knowledge or the ability. We have the ability, we just don't have the knowledge to go out and sell our work. Because one thing, artists are always afraid of being judged. Oh, that doesn't look right. It doesn't look like me. That, what is that supposed to be? So we take that to heart because, you know, it's just part of being an artist. We don't want somebody to laugh at us or make fun of us or tell us we're not a great drawer, but you got to swallow that. You got to swallow that and know what you are. You know that you know that you know what you are. All right, so in this series, I want to start out slow and I want to continue, but it's not going to be like on one thing, like we're going to draw a house all day or a body all day. I'm going to jump from different things and keep going. So this was the main thing, that if you're drawing, if you're writing all day, every day, then you can draw. You just take these shapes that you are writing and turn them into a drawing. So let's go from here. All right, let's talk about one of the most important letters in drawing, and that is the letter V. That you will find that so much, especially when you're doing perspective. Whenever you do perspective, you're going to find the letter V just everywhere. When I started doing perspective, I thought they were just so hard. They're just really so hard, but once you break it down and you see it, it becomes simple. You have one line, and that is considered your eye line right here. This is where if your head was here, you're looking at something, that is your eyes is going to stay on that line. Wherever you go, wherever you tilt your head, you're going to be able to see that line. At the end of that line is going to be the letter V. It's going to be the letter V because everything goes to that line or comes from that line as this V. Same way on the opposite side, you're going to have that letter V. As long as you can do that V, you're all right. And in between that, I don't want to say you have little V's, but you can say that. You can have a little V, another one, and so forth and so on. And this tells you where you're going to place your objects on one of these lines. Now, when you get to 2-point perspective, which is what this is, these lines are going to cross, and that's kind of like, that's where it gets kind of, you know, crazy, because you got so many lines crossing one another. But each one of these lines are going to make some type of square or rectangle. Like, let's take this for instance. You see that? Each one of these has a rectangle in it. Now, you can take that rectangle and you can draw something from it, and it'll be in perfect perspective. You can draw a building. Let's just say I'm going to draw a building. So, one thing about this line is right here in the middle of your eyes, okay? So anything below that line, you're gonna see the top of it. If I draw a cup, you're seeing the inside of that cup, and anything above that line, you're gonna see the bottom of it, okay? So just remember that. Yeah, so it's something flying above you. So if I did this and I turned this into a square, a rectangle or square, you would see the bottom of it. Now, the one thing is, these lines have to keep going. And once you kind of get this all in your head, you don't really have to draw too many lines. You'll kind of know that you know. So same thing with here. If I'm going to draw the top of this floating rectangle, I'm not going to do like this box like that, because you see that it's wrong. A lot of people, when we draw stuff, we see something wrong, but we can't put our finger on it, and we get frustrated because we know something's wrong. We can't put our finger on it. What I always say is just walk away. Walk away from your picture, walk away from your frustration, and come back later. It'll show itself eventually. But the fact that you see something's wrong is an indication that, it's a good indication that you know, hey, this needs to be fixed, and then you try to fix it. So again, if I took this all the way up, I'll just make it easy. I'll take this all the way up here. This is now the top of my box. Now, if I took this line, a couple lines here, let's just say if I'm doing this line here, line here, line here, line here. So let's just say I'll take this line, which has got to be right here, actually. It's got to go from this point down to my point. That's the top of the box. Okay, same thing with the bottom. And this is why most of our stuff is made from squares. Our buildings, our rooms, or whatever, our cars, everything's made from squares because that's an easy shape to kind of create. And then you can get more into a square than to a circle. That's why your bedroom is square. That's why your bed is square. Cars, everything's square because you can fit more into a box than you can into like a cylinder. So the same thing, you've seen the bottom of this, you've seen the bottom of this. And so here's my square again. Each one of them is a square, and you're going to see the top of that. So if I bring it down, let's bring it down to this line right here. And then we have these lines over here. And as I say, these lines can go forever. I don't think you actually go past, you're not really supposed to go past this point. Wherever you put that point, that end point, you really can't really go past this. It's just, yeah, that's another dimension. So let's see, here's my box. So if I come down here, let's bring this down to like, it's got to be here at this point. So let's do this. And then you have the bottom of your box. Now, that box can be a building. Here's my windows. And each line of windows has to fall on this, it has to go back to this point. So there's my windows, there's more windows. It's going to be off because I'm not actually drawing the point. I'm not actually drawing the line to the point. And this is where you find reference material to actually draw a building that's going to look more like a building instead of a box with just a bunch of holes cut out into it. And this could be the street at the bottom of that, and this could be like an awning over the building. And it could be the legs that hold up the awning, and the front door could be here, and it could be a long picture window here and here. And this is my street. We're going to have a 2-lane street here, and the street turns and goes this way. This one goes this way. The street comes here and it continues to go here, and you have your 2 lanes. And I can have my stoplight, just put a stoplight, I don't know, stoplight like right here is my stoplight. Here's my 2 lanes here again. So you see how easy it is to draw something just using squares. And all these are just squares and rectangles. So if I wanted to put another building somewhere, I can put another building. I can use another square. Let's say here. Let's just cut to this guy's face. Let's just say here. This is my square right here. Or rectangle. And I'll do the same thing. So this is the bottom line that it fits on. So it's got to hit this bottom line here. It can't go below that, or you're going to throw your building off. And then, of course, the bottom, the back could be kind of wherever this point is hitting. This is where the bottom, it has to go back. This is a cross right here. Now I could do another story on top of here, but I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to start out slow. And this could be an entrance here. There's going to be another entrance here. This could be long windows, but the windows have to fall on that line right there. Maybe there is a small awning going out here, and the awning has to go. So every line has to come from these 2 points, and you have to follow every line. So if I took my ruler, let's just say I put it on this point, which is going to be right here, and I took the awning, so I wanted the end of the awning right here to come out here, it would have to go out like this. Same thing there. I have to turn it and make another line that comes out here. And it's hard to do this with a ruler because it's just so much turning. This is why I could never do like graphic designs. When you design buildings and stuff, architecture, I don't like rulers. That's just me right there. So there you have it. So, you know, and if I drew some cars, here's my road that's going back here. The road could turn right here at this building. And I say, once you get this in your head, then you pretty much have it. You see the lines invisible in your head, and you can keep going. So cars, again, would be square. I'm just doing, you know, that's more like a bus. That's just more, we're just doing square cars. And again, every line has to go back this way, and every line has to go back that way. Other line that goes back that way. And I'll clarify that a little bit more. Here we have my line car here. And then you have your city. And I can put some people down here, little people, they're walking. Oh, I didn't put a sidewalk. What is it? They're in the street. Yeah, is that the street? No, this is the end. So this is the sidewalk. This is the sidewalk right here. So I'll do my little sidewalk thing right here. So it's very simple. Just as long as you know, next piece of paper, that you have your eye line. You're always going to have your eye line. That determines where your surface is going to be at. And I'll jump back to this if I can remember what I was going to do. The box. Okay. So if I have a person standing, here's my person. He's standing, here's the ground. He could be standing here on the ground. The ground could be back here, or the ground could be back here. But the thing is, the more you tilt something, let me show you this. The more you tilt something, my table is like that. And let me use this. The more you tilt something, if my table is, or the surface that he's sitting on is like this, you're seeing that. If this table or the surface is like that, it's going to be flat. The more you tilt it, the more of the top base you're going to see, and the more it's going to affect the shape of whatever is sitting on top of it. So that's kind of like your eye line from here, and then it's going back here to see more of your ground. So if I'm doing this, and my ground is way back here, that's where that point is going to come from. So if I draw a person, this is 1 point perspective, kind of jumping the gun. So if I drew a person on there, what are you doing? Just draw that, draw the arms and draw the head. But if I drew that line, it's like this, put it that way, that. So if I drew that box or that ground more like this, where you're looking down at it, then you're going to have to draw the person more up. And we'll get into drawing people different angles. Why did I draw that so small that you can't see that on the camera? Well, let's just say if I drew a glass, if it was a big bucket of water sitting here by him, it would be like that. If it was going back, if this was the back of the ground, let's just say here's trees back here, this is as far as the ground can go, that bucket you'd see a little bit of the top of that bucket. If it was back here and you see trees as far as you can go, that bucket would be even more visible. You'd see even more visible from the top. So that's the same thing as drawing a person. Now, back to what I was saying. I know I'm moving fast because I want these to be like 30 minutes only. So if I'm drawing a square, okay, we have your line. Of course, that's your eye line. You have your V right here again. So if I'm going to draw a square of some type, I almost lost it. I did lose it. You're going to have some lines going back here and some lines going back there. And let's just finish this up to make it a little easier. I was going to try to draw it without the guidelines, but for some reason my brain is not wanting to work. And you can buy graph paper. It's got to go all the way through, Brian. It's got to go all the way through. You can buy this kind of graph paper too, and that's bad. See, this is what I'm saying. When you mess up with doing this line, a perspective line, it screws up everything, and that's something that I don't. That's why one reason I don't like rulers, because one little screw up and everything is screwed up. So let's just say I'm going to put a box here. I'm going to use a center line. I know you can't see it, what I'm looking at, but that's okay. So if I'm doing a box or a square, one line is going to have to go back here and one side is going to have to go back there. And let's go back to that line. And when I rush, I don't use the lines. Like that. It's just how it has to be. So if I'm drawing this, I'm going to draw it without the grid. So because I'm seeing the top of this, you automatically know that it's going to be above. So any picture you see, any picture, any type of thing, and I'm looking for a picture that you can see the top of it, you know your eye line is above it. And anything you see the bottom of it, you know your eye line is below it. And that's one of the key points that you need to remember. If you look at magazine that has some rooms in it, like the dining room, kitchen, like a furniture magazine or something like that, you can tell where your eye line is because you're seeing the top or the bottom of something. So if this goes all the way here, this line has to go way back here, this line has to go way back there till they connect. And that's something else you can do if you have like a furniture or a chair, you're looking at that magazine and you're looking at the chair. All you have to do is just take your finger or take a pencil or something and just draw these lines until they all go all the way back and connect, and you know that that's where the end of your vanishing point is, somewhere here. So as I say, you're gonna have to connect these lines. One line is going to go to one side is going to go to one point is going to go to the other point. Now this stuff is not scripted. This is why I'm messing up. I'm just pulling out that knowledge from my brain, trying to give you guys, to get you your first step at learning how to draw everything. Not just see something and draw it, to learn how to draw everything by looking at it and drawing from that, or looking at it and remembering it and drawing it later. And that's the best thing to do, is to know how to do something because you already know how to do it. Now, let's talk about 1 point perspective. Now, perspective is really important because when you start drawing figures and things, you have to set it on the land somehow, somewhere. So 1 point perspective, what we've done is 2 points, because there's a point here and there's a point there. That's 2 point perspective where they come together. 1 point perspective is just 1 point somewhere where that V, again, using that letter or triangle, comes together. The lines come together at 1 point versus 2 points. And again, you're going to have to do that other line, another V, coming in, you know, all the way till you have one single line. And that's it. Now, the only thing about that is, I'm going to do a floor, is you have your lines going back this way and they get narrower. And that tells you how far back something goes. And you can actually, as I say, you can stop it like right here. And this could be your, not foreground. It could be the end of where you need, because these are the trees. This is your tree line right here. Your trees right here. So this is as far as you can go. You can see that. You can chop that off at any point. But everything is going to come from this line right here. And again, on these, in this grid, you also see your squares. Again, you see your squares. And again, everything comes from that square, especially in perspective. So if I wanted to draw something sticking up, a box sticking up, here it is right here, going back here, going up. And then I got to go back to that point again. And then I'll just go across, and I'll just go across. I'll go across. I think I'm going to need some colors when I start getting to a lot of lines. So you have this front. Where's my blue? You have this side going back. And you have the top. I thought I had another color, but since I don't have another color, I will use a pencil. And you have the top going back. So everything is perspective. And if you're going to do a room, I think the room is more the simplest thing. Draw a square. Like that. Any size room you choose. You draw an X. There is the center of that square. Okay, so if you put another square, a smaller square here for your back wall, erase this. But you only erase that until the end. And then you have your room. Here's your room, here's your ceiling, your floor, and your walls. And because, as I say, you're going to have to do this throughout the whole thing. Here's my lines right here. I'll show you how to measure these lines on the side, but for now I'm just going to put like a window right here. Here's my door right here. Just follow that line. Here's my door right here. And the same thing on this side. Put another long window right here. And I can put some track lights here following these. That's a little off. but you understand. And then I can put furniture down here because we have my lines going back. So I have my square. So each one of these squares could be like a foot. So I'm going to have like a couch, maybe two feet out, or just a foot. Just couldn't put a couch by the door. A square going back. This is where it gets messy because you'd have to use your ruler every time, and it takes forever. And I wanted to show you guys how to do it without taking that much time. So I'm going to have my square here. Let me get my pencil, my pen again. Like this. It's going to go back following these lines. It's going to be off a little bit. And then I'm going to go back here to the wall. Follow that. And basically I'm just doing that box. So now I want to put my backing on here, following the line again. Backing here. And then I can put a little couch there. I could put a lamp or table or whatever kind of furniture I want, but you just have to follow those lines. All right, so let's say I have a square like this. This is the side of my building. And I want to put a door in the center of that, or a window, or I want to just find the center of that building. Same thing. You do your X, corner to corner. This is now the center of your building. This is where you would put whatever in the center of your building, or chop it in half to find that. Now let's go back to the room. If I do a room, that room, it doesn't always have to be, if I do the square, that point doesn't have to always be in the center, or my line doesn't have to be always in the center. My point or that line, the eye line doesn't have to be in the center. Let's just say I put it down here, and then I put this here, and then I can go from this point to this point to there to there. Okay, now I put my wall down here. I can either drop it or I can keep it on that line. So what that gives me is, now I have to put it on that line. The floor has to be on that line. I almost lost it for a second because that's your eye line right here. So what that gives me is a bigger room because I'm seeing more ceiling than I am floor. This has to go here, Brian. So you want to erase that. So as I say, this is a bigger room. The wall is all the way in the back. Here's the door, and I can have multiple doors here, like a hotel hallway, or it could be like a you can launch your fighters out of the launch bay, or I can do another one. So this time I'm going to put it up top. I'm going to put that line up the top. So this is going to be my center here. So I'm going to do my X from here, this point to this corner, to this corner, to this corner. And then I'll do my square again. And I'm going to put it there. Remember, wherever you have this has to go. These corners have to go. So I got this from here to there. So this is my end of my wall. If I don't keep it small on that line, if I want to make it rectangular or a little longer opening, wherever my corner is, which is right here, the corners right here and here and here and here, I have to take my point and put it there. And I don't necessarily have to take it to this corner. I could take it this way. I could take it up here, and that just gives you a different look. But for this, you have to take it from that corner to the point. Because when you take a picture of a room, you don't necessarily have to stand in the center of the room. But your corner has to line up with the corner. Or this point has to line up with that line. So now I have a different type of, I'm seeing more floor. So I can see, people walking around. And because I'm on top of this, more up top of this and less of this, I'm looking down at the people. And maybe it could be a banquet. Here's a table, here's another table, there's another table here, having a banquet. Food and flowers and whatever on the table. And then I can actually have an opening here. Let's just say my point is going back like this. No, we're gonna go like that. We're gonna go kind of like that. And this could be another room here. Let's just say I'll do this. This is the opening to another room. Just let's say I have the wall right here. The ceiling could be here, or the ceiling could be higher. And then you just walk in. Let's just say, let's just put the wall right here, and then there's a door right here for whatever, the bathroom. Here's the bathroom over here. Here's this, they go there, and this could be your wall, the ceiling right there. So people can actually walk into there and then use the bathroom. Remove this line here. So now you see, I'm trying to put the cap on the pencil. Come on, Brian. You see that there is another opening for a room, and you can do that anywhere. There could be just a window up in here somewhere, but I don't want to get too far too fast. We're working on perspective so that you just don't draw your people always, you know, just standing, you know, in space with no floor. You need to know where to put the floor at. So as I said, I'm going to do like 30 minutes for each video. I don't want to go too crazy, and then I'm going to come back and continue with this lesson. So this is going to be the end of this one, because I know people don't have that much time to just, you know, sit and do the same thing. They don't, yeah, you get bored easily. So that's going to be it, and I'll be back with the next part in a minute.